In today's video, I'm going to explain to you why you should no longer look at the United States as some place you should be admiring, okay? The United States was something to admire for a very short time, few times maybe in history, but most recently it was 1945, 40 in this to about 1963. Now some might argue, well, the Civil Rights Act of 1967, that was a pretty big deal. How was that not some sort of respectable deal? Well, you know what? Had it not been basically undone, which was what it was doing, was it was trying to end Jim Crow, okay? The South's treatment of minorities has been abhorrent forever, okay? So the Civil Rights Act was trying to take care of this, and it was 4 years later that they started the drug war, which the drug war is 1,000 times worse than Jim Crow was. Look at what the drug war has done to the world. I mean, it has been an absolute disaster for the whole world. Not just one ethnic peoples in one region of the world, which was Jim Crow. So, does the United States get credit for the Civil Rights Act? We were in Vietnam at that time, and that was tearing the country apart. And we should not have been in Vietnam. The president that was assassinated for quite a few reasons. To be honest, there's no one reason that those 8 shooters were positioned to take him out in Dallas, the head of the South's revival. There was a lot of reasons. But one of the big ones was he was saying, we are not going to keep this up in Vietnam, right? He wanted out of Vietnam. He had a lot of experience there. He was like an ambassador or something like that to Vietnam for quite a while. Knew exactly what was going on with the French. We had been there since like 59, and he wanted out, okay? And then that Vietnam War, what that did to America and a lot of people is it ruined people, right? If you compare the Vietnam War to the Korean War, to the World War II, it's completely, it's more related to Korea than World War II, but World War II was a defining, there's no ambiguity here. The United States is doing good. The United States is doing exceptionally well by kicking the Germans out and the Japanese and everything that it did in World War II. Could be argued that it was all, kind of played up in the background, and yes, but the end result was authoritarianism getting its ass kicked. That's a good thing. So then again, in Korea, it was pretty defined, it was a battle against authoritarianism. And, but there wasn't this definitive win, and so that kind of took things down a notch with the military, and the mindset of the people in the military. But then Vietnam, that just created a horror show for the entire United States. When I was a kid, the kids who had parents who were Vietnam dads that were Vietnam vets, there was like a horrific child abuse. It was normal for kids to come to school with broken limbs and marks and, horrible things. And these were the Vietnam vets. kids that were suffering this. Because the Vietnam War basically destroyed the entire military's purpose. What are we doing? Why are we here? We're just here doing what? Just being maniacs, killing people, So that's what really started to turn the United States into something that isn't really something you should admire. Okay, yeah, there's good people in the United States, but especially since 9/11, what the United States does has very little good in it. Very little. The good has been undone. When people look back, like the boomers, right? No, I'm not a boomer. When the boomers look back, I'm at Gen X. And all the good old days and the good times, and even their grandparents. It was that time after World War II up until the early 60s where American golden age, right? Everybody looks back, oh, it was so great. The tax rate on the millionaires was 90%. There was free college. There was jobs galore. Of course it was great. It was for those very reasons that the United States was a great place. And then when the money that funded college started going to funding crazy, pointless wars, the Vietnam War, and it started to twist the United States. And then the United States started the war on drugs, which started twisting the United States even further. And the things that it did in Central and South America to fight communism were unacceptable, especially when you have democratic socialists being murdered because they're being called communists by people that don't know the difference. So, and this is a huge problem. People don't understand words, and that a democratic socialist is completely different than a communist. Two totally different things. Just because somebody's brain isn't big enough to understand that doesn't make it any other way. So the United States sent empowered through the School of the Americas, trained militaries that then cooed the countries and turned the countries into death squad, just horrific stuff for the 70s and the 80s, okay? All in just because there had been a few of actual communists like Cuba, right? So this justified this horrific treatment of an entire region, okay? Central and South America. Almost every single country cooed and fascist dictators put in charge. That all were very Hitler-esque, all backed by the United States. Nothing to admire. But at that point, the United States in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, there was 90s, let's stop there, not 2000s. There was more of a balance of the United States in the 90s especially. There was a lot less bad the United States was doing. I mean, they had a Palestinian-Israel solution in the 90s. They were shaking hands. I mean, it seemed like things were going pretty good, okay? But then 9/11, and with that, if you don't know, you don't know. And if you know, you know. Dancing Israelis. Which that brings me to another point, is the Israelis have been connected to all the way back to Kennedy's assassination, right? There was CIA, well, yeah, and Mossad was involved in that as well, okay? And criminal or gangs, gangs that came out of Prohibition gangs, right? Teamed up, FBI, CIA, Mossad, gangs, all tied together, all fascist, right? Fascism, might makes right. Let's ignore human advancement on levels of being nice to people and just use all the technology we can to be as mean as we possibly can. That is fascism. It has nothing to do with the blending of corporations, and it's just thugs doing dumb stuff, okay? So the fascist groups, they got together, they killed Kennedy, they took the United States down a completely different road. The first thing they did was the drug war. The next thing they did was the drug war again, and then they started cutting public schools and attacking education. That was the 80s. Reagan basically dismantled tons of great things the United States had done, and this is all just to attack the New Deal, which the rich hate the New Deal, and they've been attacking it ever since, right? The best times in this country, in the United States, were after World War II until the early 60s. That is the golden years of the United States, when the tax rate on the rich was 90%. And I think this is what the entire world needs to learn, is if you want to make the entire earth a great place for everybody, every single country on earth needs to tax at 90%. And the taxes need to go to make sure that people have what people need. Not what the rich want to do is just build endless torture prisons, and if you don't do their thing, then they will just have their thugs torture you to death. That's pretty much, what's going on in the United States right now, okay? So, yeah, look into immigrant holding facilities. Immigration holding facilities, yes. So, it's been a long time since the world should have looked at the United States as a good example, okay? The end was the 70s. That was, the 60s, 63 was really the end, but people didn't really realize it, right? Oh, Civil Rights Act, and then, but at this point now, there was even a little bit of balance after 9/11. There were still good things the United States did, ish, not comparatively speaking, but there was some. All undone, okay? The United States is no longer a democracy. It no longer follows any sort of rule of law, okay? It just makes up whatever it wants to make up and kills whoever it wants to kill. The whole world needs to look at the United States like it's a fascist shithole. Not like it's a shining pillar on the mountain, like it's a fascist shithole. That is what the United States is. You should not admire fascist shitholes. You should not put your money into a fascist shithole, okay? I'm not saying every United States citizen is a fascist. Far from it. There's a lot of good people in the United States. The problem is they're not smart enough on average to reject fascism. That's what happens when you have education cut, free colleges removed, police increase. So instead of spending your money on education, you give it to cops, okay? That's like the dumbest, literally, idea a society can do, right? Just paying people who aren't that smart, that don't bring any positive into the community, right? Instead of educating everyone, okay? So, and that's really what makes the difference. Like, the United States doesn't have good enough education. And even the people with good educations, they're so twisted by the United States' fascist, authoritarian, it is everywhere. I got a video coming up of this gang sign, okay? And the people See, I do this, making a point, but there's a gang sign. It's a fascist gang sign. It's like this, I think, right? It's popping up all over the place, even in places you wouldn't think. People are throwing their little fascist gang signs to show that they're on the team, right? Hey, I'm an idiot. I'm on the team. Yeah, I might even cut one in here. So, in conclusion, the United States is not a great place. You should look at it like you used to look at the Soviet Union. Like, ugh. You know, that's how the United States should be looked at. And with a fair amount of fear, too, because the weaponry that the United States has is quite a bit, right? Manufacturing prowess, not so much. The United States could have been a nice place again, but we've got a distinct effort, you know. I mean, look at the MK Ultra thing they did. That is just freaking evil, you know. They like Charles Manson is an MK Ultra project, okay? They did all these evil things to people, made people do evil things just so they could convince the average American citizen that they needed to vote for people that were going to hire more cops, okay? That's the CIA, the FBI, okay? MK Ultra, right? Which I believe is in full effect currently. I made a whole video about it. You can check it in the link below. So they did things to the United States. Vietnam, MK Ultra, cutting colleges, building prisons, right? That's just so damaging. It takes decades, right? Maybe never. I mean, the United States just might, you know, and there's good people in the United States. Don't get me wrong. It's not the majority, right? Because there's a certain level of intellect you have to be a good person. Like, I mean, it's just the bottom line. If you're not smart enough, then it really doesn't matter how good or not you are if you're not smart enough. And that is basically what's going on in the United States. It is the dumbest country in the world intentionally. They did this on purpose. They wanted mindless hordes, fear, live in fear, jail, prison, criminals, oh my goodness, fear, 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 right? That's the fear brain they're focusing on, okay? And it all manifested in this nightmare the United States the world is facing now. The United States' nightmares, they're just in it, right? The rest of the world potentially could avoid these problems. And it starts with getting your money out of there. Stop buying their shit. Get out of there. Leave. Fuck that place. It's no good. And the people running it, let them have it. What are they going to eat when they got nobody to farm for them? You know? Oh, the farmers voted for them. And you see how they're getting played out now. Yeah, literally. Again, back to the intelligence, or lack thereof, in the United States. You should not admire a place that is so dumb. So dumb. You have the FBI that's taken over by Mormons, and Mormons are fundamentalist kooks. So now you have fundamentalist kooks. The stories I've told, you can look at my playlist, Police Harassment, if you want to see all the not even all, I got more, the absolute horseshit that the cops do with your fucking tax money, right? Your tax money United States tax money just gave $40 billion to Argentina? Just here? Because it's run by a freaking fascist kook? Like, are you kidding me right now? Does anybody not see this but me? How ridiculous and not a place you should admire. That's all I'm saying. Don't admire the United States, and don't fear like, oh, but fear like, oh, okay, we're gonna have to take care of this problem. Peace.